From Birdstrips to her new podcast series, Art Horse, we chat with the always entertaining Jess Thomas.
All right. Thank you so much again, Jess Thomas, for joining us at Art of the Bay. Welcome, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I just want to thank you again for taking the time, and I guess I'll do a brief introduction where Jess Thomas. I secretly looked up your LinkedIn again just to make sure it was official, and I had it where it's Jess Thomas, illustrator, full stack software developer, and full-time bird is what I saw officially on your LinkedIn profile. So
is that what it's?
I'm pretty sure.
Bird.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the official title that you have on there. So, thank you so much for taking the time, and also you've been doing an amazing job with your new podcast series, Art Horse, and of course your original comic strips with Birdstrips. For folks who are probably just getting familiar with your work, would you mind giving us kind of like a timeline of like your art career so far?
Oh yeah, sure. So we worked together at change.org.
Mm-hmm.
I got laid off.
Yeah, the dark days.
Cool. No, totally, it's cool. I'm fine.
Yeah.
And then I worked at another company and I got laid off again. And I was like, this is it. Like, I'm ready. I've kind of never been super happy as a programmer. Like, it's a pretty cool job and it's like,
right.
It's interesting in its own right, but I never felt like I was like using my full self.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm very relationship driven and I don't know, that kind of stuff. So I felt like I had felt for a long time that I was suited for a different career.
Right.
And so my partner and I, we bought one-way tickets out of the country and we sold all our stuff and we moved into backpacks. And about a month in, I was like, I need something to do. Like, this isn't, right. Like I thought it would be like this big, like vacation, like time of my life, like that I would suddenly every problem that I ever had would be just solved and that I would come into a new country and like make all these new friends and stuff. But actually it was like pretty lonely. Like when you uproot from a community and like leave all your friends behind, and we didn't really have any roots because we totally moved out of our apartment.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
And we didn't know where we were going to live next. Yeah. And so I was wondering like what I could do to like practice every day, practice something, anything. Like I needed something because my partner was like working.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting across the room, like staring at him, waiting for him to be done. So I started drawing a bird a day.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like maybe I'll get better at drawing birds and maybe I'll get better at like handwriting or something. And then I just never stopped. And so I just had the 1,000th day of Birdstrips and I'm officially taking a break.
Right.
But during those 1,000 days, it was like a bird a day. There was comics, there was illustrations, there was chainsaw carving, rock painting. There was all kinds of things. And it just felt like a very sort of abundant way to live. And like learning to like trust my own taste again. And I mean, I think it's interesting that like sometimes we don't realize what like is, I don't want to say special because that sounds, not quite right, but like what's unique about ourselves.
Right.
Like I think drawing has always been a really big part of, like it's always been very close to my heart, I guess. But like I have a friend who's like every night before she goes to sleep, she's like writing a book in her head. Wow. I'm like, girl, listen, like write it down. Like, like not, I don't do that. Not everyone is like that. I think there's things that we don't maybe listen to ourselves about always.
Right.
Like we don't acknowledge or notice that that's actually a really special thing.
Right.
So that's what drawing, I guess, turned out to be.
Yeah. And I think it's very similar to like our friend Anne. Like I think she kind of went through the opposite of experience where she had been studying to become a lawyer and did it for a few
Mm.
and just didn't have the passion for it, but then transitioned into becoming a developer.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it's interesting like how we all kind of go through those journeys of like,
Mm-hmm.
was it really the path that we were meant to do, or
Totally.
on the other end, was there already like a passion that we already wanted to kind of fulfill in that sense?
Yeah, like there's this moment where you're like, I guess this is it.
Yeah.
And then you discover something new and you're like, no, this is it.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like you kind of need that first moment to be able to recognize the second moment.
Well, yeah, like I know now that you're transitioned more into doing the podcast series.
Mhm.
I just wanted to kind of give you like my feedback where I was like, I've listened to a few episodes and like I think
Yay.
it's really amazing, and I can definitely tell that you and Fiona are having like so much fun like throughout the show. But I guess just the general question is like, what like really inspired the two of you to come up with the podcast in the first place?
That's a good question. I think what was Fiona's idea, and I think she came to me after because we had started talking a bit about creativity, and she's not writing a book. Actually, I think she might be writing a book in her head every night before she goes to sleep. But like, there was a lot of creative things that she wasn't acting on.
Yeah.
And then she was looking at like what I was doing and being like, how can we mix this together, maybe? Or yeah. So it was her quest to add more art into her life and more creativity into her life that like brought us together in that specific way.
Right.
Like we're both working. I finished The Artist's Way, and she's working through it now, but it's a program by Julia Cameron. It's like a 12-week book where you go through and you read the things and then you do the tasks, and it's about bringing back, I think it's like recovering and discovering creativity or something. And it's like, it's basically therapy in a book.
Right.
But one of the really interesting things that she says is like jealousy is a map to things that you want. And so now I've been getting better at like naming the things I'm jealous of, because now I know like it's not shameful to be jealous of something. It's actually important. It's like a compass.
Okay.
And so I don't know. I think I've maybe been like learning more about myself, and it gets easier to talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know. And also like getting good feedback really is encouraging. Like some things that I find like really embarrassing if someone's like, oh yeah, like that really is me too.
Yeah.
You know?
Cool. So speaking of like just going into these other avenues, like what are some of your hobbies when you're not working on art, or I guess in this case, producing the podcast?
That's a new one. The podcast is new. I guess it's been three months for a podcast, which is maybe it's still new, but it's also not new. That's funny.
Yeah.
Didn't realize that. I guess like before the pandemic, I was learning tap dance, and that was really fun.
Yeah.
But now I'm at my parents' place for the last like 5 months.
Yeah.
So, no tap dance here. I love music. I love dance. I don't know. I really like trying new things, and I'm really an opportunist, I think, when it comes to hobbies. Yeah. I did roller derby for a while and I loved it. I did rock climbing for a while and I loved it. Like I guess going forward, I'd like to be maybe more active, and I love cooking. I love everything basically.
Yeah.
There are a few things that I don't love.
Yeah. Want to make sure that I do your loyal supporters a justice by asking you, of course, some Birdstrip questions. Like,
okay.
I wanted to make sure, like, for those that did tune in specifically for that I didn't do them a crime or injustice. So I'm pretty sure you've gotten similar questions before of like, what's your favorite bird and your favorite strip and everything. But I think in the one that I've always wanted to ask you is like, throughout all the 1,000 drawings that you've done so far, has there been like a favorite art style that you've done? Because I've seen you do, of course, different things from traditional watercolor, markers, digital painting, and of course even cake form, which I is my personal favorite, really.
Right. Yeah. That was a good cake.
Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to see like if you had any preference in doing these different art styles.
That's a really interesting question that no one has ever asked me. So here's the scoop.
Yeah. Exclusive.
Yeah, I guess like I really have tried a lot of stuff, like all different kinds of painting and also like digital art and I think like my answer feels clear to me because I remember when I was doing digital art for a while, like I was on vacation or something and I was like, I'm not going to lug around all this paper anymore. I'm not going to bring all my stuff. I'm just bringing my, the bare minimum. And then when I got home and I got to like paint with real paintbrushes again, like watercolor and like ink, it felt so good. Like there's something that like, it's so much easier for me to get in flow with the paintbrush than it is to do digitally. And maybe I was just never that competent at it. Maybe that was a problem, but like, there's something really special about watercolor paint, I think, and ink. And I think it's interesting. Like I'm looking back through all my Birdstrips right now because I'm trying to like think of like what could possibly go into a book. Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting to see the way like my earlier drawings had a lot of pencil in them and I like didn't like erase them. And it's interesting to see how the process has changed over 1,000 days. And like the things that you may focus more on are like, what a strange thing to practice.
Yeah.
Like now I can draw a bird, like now what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. My final question is like, what has been either one of your favorite projects or like either your favorite project or multiple projects that it doesn't necessarily even have to be Birdstrips. It could just be anything that you've loved working on in the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really proud of Birdstrips. I'm excited for it to turn into something new. I think Art Horse is something that I've always wanted. Like it's almost something that I always wanted Birdstrips to be, but could never be because that doesn't make any sense. And so it's like, it feels like it's exactly the thing that I want to be doing, which is I've always been really passionate about inspiring people to do art and to like find their creativity and to do whatever it is that they are like stuck about or wanting to do, because I am stuck and wanting to do and I can't and it's hard. And I think like the cool thing about Art Horse is it's like this stage for me to like try out things. It's like a funny excuse to try things and it's really exciting. So I really like that. But when I read your question, the first thing that came to my mind was there was this really interesting project. I've never done anything like it before, but it was like probably, I don't know, 5 years ago or something. There was a friend of mine was organized this like super secret project to do this like a timeline of the history of the universe.
Oh, wow.
Under the city, like in a storm drain.
Yeah.
And so like, and he was very like paranoid about like being, anyone finding out. And like, so no one was allowed to talk about it outside of anything. Like no one was allowed to send an email. There was like code words. No one was allowed to text about it. It was this whole thing. And so like everyone had an event and they had to like design a piece for their event. Yeah. So like the first flowers, on an earth. And like, so mine was the first, I remember it was like a giant like fish alligator thing. I think it was the first thing with feet maybe, or like legs. It was the first thing that went on land. But it was like so interesting because we're just all in this storm drain in our rubber boots with our flashlights and like spray painting on this wall. And there's like all these plaques and like, it's really interesting. It's underneath Victoria, BC, in Canada. Like, but I don't know if it's still there, but I feel like that was a really interesting collective project, the likes of which I've never seen before or since. Yeah.
I just want to say thanks again for joining us on this conversation. I really appreciate it. And of course,
it's been so much fun.
Yeah. I want to give you a huge congrats again with everything, with your success with Birdstrips. And of course, now joining your new journey with Art Horse and the podcast. Did you have any plugs that you wanted to mention before we head out?
I guess you can find Birdstrips on Instagram. At Birdstrips. And you can find Art Horse at arthorsepod.com and arthorsepod at Instagram. On Instagram. Sorry, my dog just walked in and he just got a haircut. I don't know if you can see his
he wanted to get the final plug, so that I think that's why.
Yeah, he just had to. Yeah, that's Ben. So yeah, listen to Art Horse and check out Birdstrips. That's it.
It's been approved. So
yeah, that's right. Just so you know, it has the paw of approval, the stamp of approval.
I can't think of a better way to end it out than that. So
cool.
Thank you so much, Jess.
Yeah, thank you.
Hope you have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too.
Take care.
Bye.
Take care.